Hey guys, it's Mr. Shaw here. I'm going to walk you through the scale rate of change graph, which you can find using the quick code YER. This is going to be under J15 in IXL. And here's a pretty good example of one of the problems you'll see. Okay, I can see here a school administrator who was concerned about grade inflation looked over the number of straight A students from year to year. And I read, according to the graph, what was the rate of change between 2010 and 2014? So change is going to be a difference between where you started and where you ended up. And so the first thing I need to do is see what is the time it's telling me I started and ended up. So I started in 2010, and on the graph, that's the first number, so that's easy. And then I ended in 2014, and that's the last year, so that's easy. So then I look at what the change was. Well, in 2010 I had 32 students, and in 2014 I had 32 students. So I see a lot of change happening in this graph, but from 2010 to 2014, it doesn't look like there was any change. So I'm going to take that number, 0, which is 32 minus 32, and that'll be my numerator in my rate of change. A way that I could test that out would be to say 32 minus 32, which I know equals 0. And then the amount of time that changes is 2014 to 2010. I'm going to put that on the bottom. 2014 to 2010. All right, now let's see if I'm right. That leaves me with 0 out of 4. Well, I know that as a whole number that's going to be 0, so I type that in and see if I've got it. Yay! It tells me that I'm awesome. I feel so much better about my life. Let's try another one. A vendor who sold bread at a farmer's market counted the number of leftover loaves at the end of each day. I actually bought bread from a farmer's market not too long ago, but we can't go out and buy anything from farmer's markets right now. So, loaves of leftover bread, according to the graph, what was the rate of change between Monday and Friday? Once again, the graph goes from Monday to Friday. That's nice. So on Monday, it's 45. And then on Friday, it's 25. But then I count how many days go by. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, well, I don't have numbers down there, so when I make my fraction, I'll have to basically count the number of days, it looks like. Let me start off with the numerator. Looks like on the end of it, I started at 25 and then 45. Which number do I put first? From what I remember, I start off with the number that I ended with, and then I subtract the number that I started with. So I ended with 25 loaves, and then I started with 45 loaves on Monday. Okay. And then, to get how many days have gone by, Friday is the 5th day, and then Monday is the 1st day. Well, I'm a little nervous about this, but let's see if we get it right. If I subtract these, I get negative 20 on top, and then 4 on the bottom. So it asks me, what's the rate of change between Monday and Friday? How many loaves per day? I need to turn this into loaves. Well, 20 divided by 4 gives me 5. And since it's a negative 5. All right, fingers crossed. Did we get it right? Woo! I think we're getting it. All right, let's try one more just to make sure that we get every single type of question. A pair of Putnam High School hockey fans counted the number of games won by school each year. According to the graph, what was the rate of change from 2005 to 2009? Before we really dive into this, let's review what our steps were. The first thing I had to do was figure out the formula that I've been using for rate of change. And so the first number was the number that I ended with. We're going to call that y2. So that's whatever number on my y-axis that I ended with, which in this case was 7. And then the second number we subtracted was y1. That's the number that I started with. So in this case, I started with 11. So I take that 7 and I would subtract 11. Okay, then on the bottom, I take the year I ended with, which in this case was 2009. We're going to call that x2. I'm calling it x2 because it's the second number I use on my x-axis, which is the one labeled here. And then I subtract y1, which it tells me should be 2005. We're going to call that x3. 1. Okay, so I can take 2009. Mr. Shaw's running out of space in his little drawing, so he's going to just use his terrible finger handwriting and write it here. And it asks me, what was the rate of change between 2005 and 2011? So let me test it out. 7 minus 11 gives me negative 4 on top. 2009 minus 2005 gives me 4 on the bottom. I simplify that and I get negative 1. If I got it right and I use my formula, it should tell me that I did an amazing job. It said good work. If you follow this formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, you should be able to get the rate of change every single time. The one thing to pay attention to in some of these questions, which you can see here, is that sometimes they're not going to ask about the first and the last thing in the graph. Here, it's asking about the rate of change from Tuesday to Thursday. But I look at the graph, and it goes from Monday to Friday. So I'm going to make sure that I am subtracting the right way when I do this. So let's try this one out and see if we can increase our SMART score a little bit more before I sign off. So first I have to figure out what my Y2 is. Well, my Y2 is on Thursday, not Friday. Luckily they're the same numbers. If I mess this up, I'd be okay, but it's 12. Then I look at my Y1, and it looks like that's on Tuesday, not Monday. Now, if I mess this up and I want 20, I would have got the wrong answer. But since I'm reading the question and I'm seeing that it's Tuesday, I'm going to say 12. Okay, now my X2. Well, first day is Monday, then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday. So the fourth day is Thursday. And my X1, the second day, is Tuesday. So I'll say 4 minus 2. Now using my number sense, I realize it doesn't matter because 12 minus 12 is 0. And 4 minus 2 is 2. So it looks like the rate of change from Tuesday to Thursday was 0 minutes per day. Super! Try a few on your own, and don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. See you guys later.